Hi, this is Dominic Keating. I played Lieutenant Malcolm Reed on Enterprise, as you probably know, and you are listening to the NX 7062 podcast. Enjoy.
Yes, you are. It is the NX 7062 podcast. Hello, coming to you live from beautiful southern New Jersey. Hope you are all doing well. And we all know why we're here. It's happy anniversary to my favorite show, and I hope yours too, Star Trek Enterprise. It was 21 years ago today that Broken Bow premiered and introduced us to an entirely new crew, an entirely new ship, and something that hadn't been done in Star Trek before, something raw and real and not as polished as all of the other shows that had come before it. And y'all know I have got a very special guest waiting in the wings, but there's a couple little housekeeping things that I wanted to do real quick. Hello, Robert. The first thing is I can't believe I forgot to do this last week. Anthony Montgomery and I chatted a few times while I was in Vegas. Of course, we love Anthony. And he has had a project in the works for a few years now, something that COVID, it didn't help any, getting this project underway. And he is finally kind of in the end stages and just about ready to announce it. That is all I am allowed to say, except that if you aren't already, please follow Mr. Anthony Montgomery. That is how you can find him on social media. It's Mr. Anthony Montgomery. He's been hanging out a lot on Instagram, especially this weekend because he was over in Dortmund, Germany for Destination Star Trek, which is right now the only licensed Star Trek event in Europe. He and Connor and Armin Shimmerman and Kitty Swink and Bob Picardo and one or two other people was really light on celebrity guests, but they were all over there for the weekend. So please follow Mr. Anthony Montgomery, check out what he was doing in Germany, and be on the lookout for a huge announcement for this project that's I know is very near and dear to his heart, and something he's been working on for a while, and I can't wait for him to announce it so that we can talk about it some more. And before I get to my very special guest, real quick, just want to talk about, and this is actually going to roll right into my guest, Lower Decks on Thursday. I actually just watched it today. Completely forgot I was going to watch it over the weekend. This episode is probably my favorite one so far because Boimler went off the rails. We learned Rutherford's first name, and there were so many little cameos from all these great species that we haven't seen in a while, and just TOS references left and right. So if you haven't watched this week's Lower Decks, you definitely need to. In fact, if you haven't watched Lower Decks this season, then you know what? You have missed out on the appearance in Lower Decks of my very special guest tonight, because General Martok returned in Lower Decks this season, and I've got him right here, the one and only JG Hertzler. What are you hiding behind? Oh my God. It's the gopher from Caddyshack. Is Bill Murray going to pop out now?
Oh, I'd love to have Bill Murray here in my dining room.
Oh, that would be awesome. Where? That is just not what I was expecting to see, JG.
I can't. I got this. When was the movie? Like 400 years ago?
Yeah.
I have that, and every time I push the button and he sings, I start laughing. I mean, even if I just have to look at him and start laughing. I love the groundhog.
The groundhog was the unsung star of that movie.
Absolutely.
So welcome.
Let me see if I can get a light on me without being on the screen. Oh, there we go.
Oh, there we go.
Better.
You're an actor. You're not a lighting guy. I get it.
I'm an actor, Jim, not a bricklayer.
Welcome. Robert is here to welcome you. You remember Robert, our friend Robert?
O'Reilly?
No, Robert Plant.
I vaguely remember O'Reilly. Yes, no, I don't remember you, Robert. But are you on the podcast?
No, he is actually. He's chatting. We're live, and he is chatting at us.
Oh.
I don't know if you can see. I don't know if you can see the chat.
Private chat.
Nope, not private chat. The top one that says comments. Click on that.
There it is. Yes, Robert Plant. Oh, that's right.
Yes, he's a Martok cosplayer.
He was the lead guitar on. Or what was the name of that group? Was it Led Zeppelin?
I was going to say Led Zeppelin. I'm not sure though. Anyway, I was never a big Led Zeppelin fan.
I'm glad you're still around, Robert, because you had a hell of a time there.
But it was Led Zeppelin. We were right. We were right. See, that's what I love about doing the live chats. Whenever I don't know something or I'm unsure about something, I've always got we call them the Chat Pack 2.0, and we've got the Chat Pack over here.
Of them, so that there's a great store of knowledge hidden out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, because I've forgotten it. I knew it all at one time, but no more. I can't remember what I had for breakfast, let alone who was the lead singer for Led Zeppelin.
Zeppelin, exactly. But you know what? I love Martok. Martok was a great character, but we're not here to talk about Martok. We're here to talk about Kolos, the lawyer, the Klingon lawyer from that show.
I thought you wanted to talk about this guy from Enterprise.
That's the guy from Enterprise, yes.
But it's not Kolos.
What is it? I thought his name was Kolos.
Well, that was Kolos. This was a different episode.
Wait.
This of Enterprise. It was called Borderlands.
Oh yeah. Oh right. That was the guy that you were on for 2 seconds and got shoved out of the airlock.
7 seconds.
Oh, 7 seconds.
I don't know. That's how he took the augments came aboard, got aboard, and got me out of there. But this picture, I think Mickey did this screen capture. But look at that image. I mean, the image is phenomenal. It makes him look. He doesn't even have a name, but it makes him look like the series is about him and not Scott Bakula.
Who we love. We love Scott Bakula.
It is so cool, this picture. I loved it. I've never seen it before this weekend.
Well, you signed the one. I've got a couple of autographs from you, and the one that is near and dear to my heart, there was the Kolos one.
Oh, I loved Kolos. I was in law school. JG Hertzler was in law school for about 8 months. So I loved playing a Klingon lawyer, as Kolos. Because the major instrument of persuasion for a Klingon lawyer is a 2x4. And so, but I didn't get a chance to use it. But that episode was fabulous.
Well, I liked one thing I really liked about that episode was you got to see the other Klingons in society besides the lawyers. Besides the warriors. You got that little peek behind the Klingons actually do have a justice system that's not just a bat'leth.
Well, basically it is a bat'leth, but beyond that, I mean, we have a chance to talk a little bit. But the interesting thing for me, beyond doing I loved the character, and I got a chance to wear that uniform that I wore. I mean, they basically made that uniform for that character, Kolos. But the uniform I showed you in Borderland there was worn originally by Michael and Sarah. Now he's so far before your time, but he was one of the 3 original Klingons with Koloth, Kor, and Kang. And anyway, that was fabulous. But what I was going to say, something about what was it? Something about well, anyway, I'd worked with Scott years before on Quantum Leap. And as we sat back, in fact, I got to punch him in the nose, and my eyesight, I do have a bad left eye, so I have no depth perception. So I punched him right in the face, and of course my punch was a little bit too far, and I did hit him right in the nose.
Oh my God.
But he forgave me for that. He's a wonderful actor. He's a stage actor. He's a song and dance man. You know, he was wonderful before he got into TV.
Yeah, somebody actually on one of the Enterprise Facebook pages just posted they've released a couple of soundtracks, original Broadway soundtracks from a couple of productions that he was in.
Do you know what they were? I don't know what they were, but I know he was a song. I knew he was a singer and a hooker.
Yeah, off the top of my head, I don't remember. I just remember seeing them on the Enterprise page. But yeah, so you can actually now get a couple of soundtracks with Scott Bakula from his Broadway days.
Well, somebody will know on here. Somebody will chat in.
Yeah.
What shows did Scott do on Broadway? You said, right?
Yeah, Broadway soundtracks. Mm-hmm. But real quick before we move on, Robert wanted to let you know that he finally acquired the 2 books that you wrote. About
freaking time. It's only been, 15 years before, let me see, 2003, I think they were released. Take your time. What's your next hit? Like Catcher in the Rye? Is that the next? I'm sorry.
Well, you know what? Better late than never.
Well, Robert, could you just sing a few bars from your favorite Led Zeppelin tune? Because we all loved you in that band, and I'd like to hear a little bit more. Scott was in. Let's see. There's Robert. Hi, Travis says hi, Robert.
Yeah. That's the thing. We're going to talk amongst. That's the thing about the live. They're going to talk amongst themselves as well as talk to us. So Scott was in a Carnival commercial.
A Carnival
cruise line commercial.
Scott was in a Carnival. Well, you know, that's interesting because the show that I did with him on Quantum Leap took place on a cruise ship on the Queen Mary, docked at L.A.
Oh wow!
And he jumped into a person a ne'er-do-well who was marrying my daughter.
Ooh! No wonder you punched him in the nose.
I did. It was. He said, "Well, on my honor." I said, "You have no honor. You didn't go to Harvard." You know, I was a little protection, or I can't remember the woman who played my daughter. She was only about 3 years. Oh, she was about 10 years younger than me.
Oh my God.
I've always played old guys. I mean, I used to put white in my hair all the time, but then it got to the point where I didn't need that white anymore. I have my own, thank you. But anyway, Broadway, I've had a different Broadway career. That is Irene Pappas. Do you know who that is? Does anybody out there know who Irene Pappas is?
Not ringing any bells.
She was a famous movie star, Greek. She was in Guns of Navarone.
Okay.
And you know who else was in Guns of Navarone? Jimmy Darren. Thank you very much.
Oh, we love Jimmy.
Absolutely. And anyway, that's my head that she's carrying. And that was a Broadway production of The Bacchae. And Irene Pappas was playing my mother. And she got excited in the woods with all the other Maenads. You can look it up. And they get into a frenzy. And she was so gone, she cut off her own son's head.
Oh my God.
It's a Greek play. Does it sound like one?
Chris Hunter got it. Chris did know that she was a famous Greek actress. So, hi, Chris. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Chris.
Do you remember Jeffrey Hunter, who played the original Captain Pike back in Star Trek?
For me.
I'm talking to you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, Chris is his son. Chris is Jeff Hunter's.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Jeffrey Hunter was a giant star. I guess that's why he didn't keep doing Star Trek, because he had a huge film career.
His wife at the time's the one that told him that he shouldn't take Gene Roddenberry up on they came to him to do the second pilot before Shatner, and his wife at the time said, you don't want to be involved in something like this.
Well, I need you to get Shatner on your show and make sure you tell him that. You were the third choice, by the way, Bill. Did you know that?
Wow. Oh, yeah, that would be a very quick show.
It might be very quick, and there could be an explosion on your end.
Yeah.
Because he knows people who know people.
Yeah. No, Chris is great. Chris has been on the show a few times, too, to talk about his dad and Star Trek.
Well, Chris, I'm impressed because, that he's of an era that that was my golden age of Hollywood. I did a theatrical tour with Roddy McDowall, who was part of the golden age of Hollywood from back in the 30s. Because he was a kid. He was a very young child actor. And, but your dad, Jeffrey Hunter, there's nobody bigger than that name in my book. Absolutely.
Okay, so Travis has a question about the books. The books are not considered canon, but are the books written by the actors considered canon? So in general, Travis's question is in general, the books aren't considered canon, but because you wrote it, is it considered canon?
Well, I don't think so, but there's no reason why it couldn't be, because the books that I wrote along with Jeffrey Lang, who's a wonderful, wonderful writer. Geez, I hope I got his name right. I always mix him up with the actor, Lang. What's the actor's name that was on Avatar?
I only saw Avatar once.
The tough guy. He was he did a wonderful job. But Jeffrey Lang, and I hope that's your last. I hope I got it correct. In 2003, 2004, we got him released. But you did, okay. He made everything that I did. I didn't have him really around for the first book when I wrote it, but then he was brought on by. Who was it? It wasn't. God damn! What was the editor's? Not the editor. Marco Palmieri was the editor, and he's a genius. He's a wonderful guy, and he brought Jeffrey in. My daughter was born between the first book and the second book, and when I was getting up at 5:30 with my daughter, and she would be, I'd take her out onto the deck. We lived in Tahunga with her. The greatest thing I ever had was this wooden deck overlooking really a small valley, a ravine, really. But it was a great place to spend the early hours of the morning with your newly born daughter. And anyway, it took a lot of my time to be with Hannah. And anyway, Jeffrey made everything that was good about what I had written better. And everything that wasn't so good, he made it good. And so I'm ever in debt to Jeffrey Lang. Terrific writer, terrific co-author, great friend. Now, what was I going to say? Something about the book. I forgot.
Anyway, that's okay.
Anyway, back Jeffrey. If we go all the way back to Jeffrey Hunter. Oh, I know it was Roddy McDowall. Roddy McDowall was the youngest of that golden age of actors in Hollywood. And for that reason, I did a touring show with him in 1996, right before I returned to Star Trek, actually. It was between Emissary and the appearance of Martok, the fake Martok. I was able to do a national tour with Roddy McDowall, and
wow.
yeah, it was fabulous.
I wish my friend Magic Lasso was here because Roddy McDowall did Batman, and we're huge Batman 66 fans.
Roddy McDowall played Batman? No, he didn't.
No, he played the villain. He played Bookworm.
Oh wow, I didn't know that. That was in '66.
Yeah, Batman 66. He did a few turns as the Bookworm, and he was also in an episode of Wonder Woman. Yep, and he was in the original Fright Night. I love Roddy. Roddy's great. Everything I've seen him in has been wonderful.
Roddy was great. He's no longer with us.
Yeah, true. Hi, Mohammed.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I did one of the greatest things that happened with he I can't tell that story. But he did of his photography. He's a great photographer. He took a lot of pictures on the set. I don't even have took a picture of me backstage that I have used as a headshot because it's on my website. I don't have a website. It's on my Facebook page. Why don't I have a website?
Because you and I haven't talked about doing a website. We'll talk.
Why haven't I done that?
I don't know. You had one for your campaign, but I don't think you've ever had one.
You're right.
You had one for the campaign.
I ran for Congress, and my sister said, "You're running for Congress?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Of the United States?" I said, "Yeah." She said, "Well, aren't you skipping a few levels?" I said, "Yeah." And it became very clear. I ran as an independent because I've been a Democrat for 1,000 years, but I could not stand a few things that were going on. But of course, I could not ever. My parents were both Republicans, but I couldn't be a Republican, so I ran as independent. I still, if you ask me, and I know you're not, and nobody out there is. However, I'm going to share it anyway. I think a great ticket would be Liz. What's her name?
Cheney.
God, Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger, and they're both Republicans. And I would vote for Republicans, but they may well be both non-affiliated because I don't think they're Republicans anymore as far as the party's concerned. And Democrats, everybody, it's. Do you know their politics? Yes, I do. The thing is, they're honest and they're brave and they're smart. And boy, do we need that. Anyway.
Come on, Zod. I've got my newest edition, Zod. He's at my feet. I'm trying to see if he'll come up and say hi, but he's thinking about it.
Now, Zog is a familiar name.
Zod, General Zod, as in General Zod from Superman, as played by Terrence Stamp in the second movie.
Yes. Now, Travis Owen is asking, was Roddy McDowall in Planet of the Apes? And
yes,
he was Cornelius. Was he not?
Yes.
Dr. Cornelius, yes.
In fact, I just read an article. He only missed one Cornelius role because he was in Europe filming. He was in every original Planet of the Apes movie except one. And they had to recast his character because he was unavailable.
Well, how many original Planet of the Apes movies?
More than I thought.
Original?
Yeah, there was Planet of the Apes, Return to Planet of the Apes.
Yeah, but they're all different time zones, aren't they? They're all different times.
Well, I mean, original as opposed to the reboots that they did a few years ago. They rebooted it.
Okay, I have to catch up on that.
Yeah, you have to catch up.
It's a great idea. It's one of the most iconic lines. It's the only time I ever liked Charlton Heston. Get your hands off me, you filthy ape.
So I want to talk about Enterprise because before the show you said, "Oops." See, this is the only problem with having felines is every now and then they get tangled up in the green screen. Zod, you got to move, baby. Otherwise, you're gonna. Oh,
that was Zod who did that?
Yeah, he stepped on the green screen and it pulled. And hold on. See, there we go. All right. I have to put a doggy door down there or something to keep him from doing that. Okay, so let's see. I'll still talk about Roddy. Before the show, you and I were talking, and I said I wanted to talk about Enterprise because it is the 21st anniversary. And you said really all you could talk about was Connor and Dominic. And I said I will spend an entire show talking about the two of them because I love them so much. But you actually worked more with Scott. I mean, all of your scenes except for.
I had a few late scenes, mainly with Dominic. I don't think Connor had anything with me. But Connor also played football for the University of Washington, right?
Right.
So we have that. I played for a much smaller school, Bucknell University. But we were both, I think, defense. Didn't he play defensive back? Yes, he did. And I was an outside linebacker. And so we share that. There's a special little connection there because of that.
The football thing.
Yeah, that football thing.
You almost punched Malcolm in the nose because when he snuck up on you in Rura Pente, that last scene where he came to rescue Archer.
Oh, yes.
It's a good thing you didn't.
Yes, I said, no, I'm not going. It's not for, Scott can go, but because he didn't do anything wrong, I must maintain my Klingonness and pay my price here. So I can't go with you, young man. Be honest.
There's a story, and I'm not sure how many people have heard it. I know I've heard it because we've had this conversation. Was it John Billingsley that told you about what was it, like swearing Thursdays?
Anything goes Friday.
There we go.
It's Fridays.
Now, what some of you out there may not know is between John and Dominic, I mean, that set was probably rife with F-bombs and just a lot of stuff. But you sort of were the one that ruined it for everybody.
No, not me. I never. The set was not rife with anything for me. But Dominic, he's English, so every other word is fuck, like fucking C-U-N-T word, and they use that a lot, and they're very good at it, and it always sounds very proper.
Right.
There's nothing wrong, nothing off color about that. It's good. It's very dramatic and colorful language. But yeah, anything goes. Billingsley, whom I'd known earlier from theater and whatnot, Billingsley said, we have Anything Goes Fridays here. I said, what's that? He said, well, you can say anything you want to anybody on any level of production or cast, crew, whatever. And nobody can hold anything against you because it's Anything Goes Friday. So I said, oh, interesting. So I can't believe I might have worked on 2 Fridays, but I have a feeling it was just the one Friday because maybe there was 8 days of shooting, but they were spread out over 2 weeks. And I don't think I was there for 2 Fridays. But after I left, I got word that Anything Goes Fridays was no longer observed. They had been permanently canceled because of me. I just took things way too far, and anything didn't go.
You found out what didn't fit in with Anything Goes Friday.
I take things very literal, and I said, "This is okay. I'm there. I'm with you. I'm going for it every chance I get," and I pissed off way too many people. Who's the guy? Jacobian. Is it Robert Jacobian? Who's one of the main producers, at least on the set.
Okay.
I just, Lord knows, I don't remember what I said to him, but I don't think it was because, to give an actor an opportunity to say anything he wants to anybody is just asking for trouble. If you don't want to do that, then don't create it. But I loved it. Anyway, it ruined it for everybody else. And that's not the first time I've done something like that.
No, I do. I love that story. Like I said, I mean, Dominic says anything he wants. It sounds good because it's British, and Billingsley just says fuck just about as much. It just doesn't sound as cool because he doesn't have a British accent.
I know. But he's played plenty of British fellows.
Yes.
John. What did I do? Did something with John in the theater before he was on the show. But I did a short film with him. I think I can't remember the name of it. But he was friends with my friend also, and his friend Eric Young, who worked at Disney. It was a producer at Disney for a long time. And his wife, Emily, played the female lead in Cyrano de Bergerac. Christian and what's her name? The girl on the back.
Oh, in Cyrano? Oh my God. It's right on the tip of my tongue.
Roxanne.
Yep.
She played Roxanne for me up at the Shakespeare Festival in Northern California. And, I adored her. And anyway,
So you worked with John Billingsley and Scott before you ever stepped foot on an Enterprise set.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it must have been was it pretty comfortable for you to come in and be another Klingon?
It was comfortable. Yeah, it was that was comfortable, but it was comfortable for me because I'd done 4 years on the DS9. So I was very comfortable on a set at Paramount Studios. If I were in a different studio, different lot, playing a different kind of a show, I would not have been comfortable because I always, actors worry about getting everything right, wonderful.
Right.
But this, I didn't care. Plus, I could say anything I wanted
to a point that we figured out. But I mean, was it different than the DS9? Was the vibe different, or was it like really comfortable? Or
yeah, no, it was really comfortable. The vibe on DS9 was you could not make a mistake if you said the word that instead of a which. Stop, cut. Let's go. Let's take a look at the script. It's that. It's which. Okay. I'm sorry. I said that. Yes. Say which. There was that kind of precision on the DS9 set, and there was, as Anything Goes Fridays would attest to this, it was a little bit looser on the Enterprise set. Maybe there wasn't as much pressure. I don't know. But it should have gone on for at least 7 seasons like the rest of them.
Oh, no, it definitely should have. It's funny that you said that because I interviewed Connor and Dominic back in 2019, and we had one of the things we talked about was it still was very, don't substitute that for which and whatever. And Connor would always talk about how he didn't really learn his line. But Dominic actually said he had a little more leverage because sometimes the writing wasn't quite right for a Brit, and he would be Brits don't say that or not here. So he actually,
because he was playing British on the show as well.
Yeah, so he had a little bit more leeway when it came to, what did he call them? Englishisms, I think he called them in the interview. But yeah, he had a little more leeway because the writers were American writers, and when you try and they were writing for an Englishman, and sometimes he was like, nope, would never say that.
Now, who was the head? Was there a head writer on that? Who were the writers? I don't remember.
Well, I mean, it definitely started with Brandon Braga and why am I blanking on his name? Rick Berman. I mean, it was their baby when it started. But yeah, I think there were different writers for the episode. I'm terrible with that kind of stuff.
Well, there was a lot of writers. There was some of the best, I think some of the greatest, we had a few wonderful writers. Renee Echeverria went on. Ron Moore went on to write Outlander. Went on to write, the one of the head writers on the Yellowstone.
Okay.
Ron. I think I had that right. I may be wrong, but I know that he's written so many things besides. He got his start, I believe, as a fan of the original of Next Generation, the original Star Trek and Next Generation, and you could submit scripts. One of the few shows that did it. You could submit scripts being a non-entity. You could still submit a script. They would take it, they would read it, and they would give you comments. And they loved his stuff so bad. They said they bought the idea. I forgot what it was, but they said, "Would you like to come on the staff?" And he became a staff writer on Next Generation. I think with Brandon Braga, they were partners in writing for a while. Anyway, but
yeah, I'll do a shout out to the Shuttle Pod Show, which is Connor and Dominic's podcast. They actually had, I think it was a 2-part where they talked to Brandon about writing and writing for the show and the process and everything.
Right. Did you say that Connor and Dominic have a podcast?
They do. It's called the Shuttle Pod Show.
Oh,
and it premiered. The first episode was February on the anniversary of Shuttle Pod 1, which was their quintessential episode that kind of cemented the friendship between Trip and Malcolm. And they did a table read of the original uncut script. So there was stuff in there that never made it to screen. And then a couple weeks later, they followed it up, and they've had some really amazing guests. Yeah, a lot of them from the shows. I don't see why they couldn't have you on an episode, except that they do. So far, it's all been taped out in LA in either one of their houses.
Yeah, they'd have to have Anything Goes Friday on the podcast, and I'll just come on there and just if
that's what they do, because the two of them swear, so it's all beeping out. But definitely, I would definitely. Yeah,
I love it. I do a lot of. I go on the Seventh Rule. I've been on 2 or 3 times, and Sirach is wonderful, and I just miss, and Ryan Husk, of course, too, but I miss Aaron so much.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, he and Sirach who got this thing going, and I made a short film. It's a little comedy. It's a send up of the animal shows. It's a send up of the Crocodile Hunter and whatnot. It's called Reptile Rangers, and Aaron plays, Bob O'Reilly's in it, Aaron's in it.
Oh my God!
And I directed it and wrote it, and I said, anyway, Aaron plays the there's 4 or 5 Rangers. It's a team, and
oh my God!
Yeah, they anyway. He was very funny. He played a character called Spike, and he was always armed with 1,000 guns. He was security.
Is this somewhere where somebody could find it? Is it on YouTube or somewhere?
Not anywhere. It was SAG sanctioned. It was low budget thing, but I've never let it out there. So I really should do that now.
You really should do that.
I just didn't get around to it, and there was too much. There were too many reasons not to do it, but now it's time again. It's time. And I know what happened. It was a send up, and then he got killed. You know who I mean? The Crocodile Hunter got killed.
Oh yeah, Steve Irwin. Mm-hmm.
About to release it, I said,
Oh.
Yeah.
Timing is everything, and that would not have worked.
No, that would not have been good. I think it's enough time has passed now, but my daughter and I would sit on the couch and watch that show religiously.
Oh wow.
The Crocodile Hunter.
Mm.
And look at the size. Look at the size of his tail. He's a giant feeder. Anyway.
So you were an unnamed Klingon in Borderland. I'm curious, how did that come about? That they talked you into going back into Klingon makeup for basically one scene?
Stephanie, they pay you very handsomely. And it didn't take much arm twisting. Oh, yes, please, let me come on, get paid immense amounts of money, wear a wonderful costume. I love costumes. And
well, that'll do it.
Makeup. So, it was a great honor to be part of Enterprise. And, I really liked the idea. I'm sorry that I got knocked off so quickly. But another one, one of the friends, one of the augments was Thomas, or nicknamed Randy, like Ethan Phillips is really called. His real name is Johnny Phillips. Everybody knows him as Johnny Phillips, but he's to the world out there. It's Ethan Phillips. This on what was I saying? Something about.
So one of the augments.
Shit. Oh, one of the augments was Randy Oglesby. His name's Thomas Oglesby, but everybody knows him as Randy. And I had worked with him in theater in San Francisco years earlier. And I think if it wasn't him, it was a couple of his augment buddies that came in and just blew me away. I don't remember being spaced. You're saying I was spaced, huh?
Well, what happened? They killed you, and then they basically got rid of all the bodies and shoved you out the airlock.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if you were still alive, if they just stunned you, but they
No, they blew me away with disruptors or whatever weapons they had.
Yep. And then you were like, oh, let's clean this bridge up. Everybody goes out the airlock.
Yeah, augments.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like Oreo, it's like, oh, is that an augmented Oreo? Is that extra?
Well, that's what I mean. That's actually, I loved a lot of the stuff in the 4th season, but the augment storyline, how it tied everything together with Khan and Dr. Sung, I thought that was such a fantastic storyline.
Khan!
Yep. Yeah, I just loved how the other storyline from that season that actually was the one where you found out how come the Klingons in TOS didn't have forehead ridges.
Because they spent all their money on LeMay, on gold LeMay.
They created a virus. What the Klingons tried to do was they heard about the human augments. And they tried to create Klingon augments, and it backfired, and it turned into a virus.
Gave them ridges, huh?
Yeah, so if you got the virus, you lost your ridges, and then eventually it killed you. But then they kidnapped Dr. Phlox. You found out about another type of Klingon. You met a Klingon physician, and the two of them worked together, and they stopped the virus at stage 2. So you weren't an augment, and you lost your ridges, but at least you were alive. So that's how they explained it. So there were the Klingons that looked like Klingons, and then there were the Klingons that looked like that had lost their ridges because of this virus.
I'm sorry, I got distracted by the chat. Magic Lasso. Well, is Magic Lasso still out there?
Yeah, I think so.
He said all his comments or her comments are general. Hi, blah, 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 blah. The general and chat. I don't know what that NX7. Oh, that's 7062.
That's me. Yeah, he's talking to me.
Hello, Magic. Hi, Robert Plant. Hi, Lasso. I'll catch. Oh, you ought to hear the Roddy McDowell part. I'll catch the rewind. You want to ask a question about Roddy? Crikey! If money talks, all mine says is goodbye.
That's a great. Lasso is one of my oldest friends. I've known him for forever, and he is also my comic book guru whenever I want to know about comics.
Oh, that is
and he's a huge Wonder Woman fan, and he has his own YouTube channel called Magic Lasso, and he talks about comic books. And he comes here on Mondays to support the show.
Oh, nice. What's Lasso? I mean, Lasso is part of the funniest show on TV, but what's the first part of it?
Wonder Woman's Magic Lasso.
No, not that.
Ted Lasso?
Yeah, Ted Lasso.
Yes.
What a strange name. But the name is so strange and so uninteresting to me that for months I didn't watch it. And then I watched it, and it's about the funniest thing on television.
Isn't it beautiful? It's so good.
And of course, the guy who fucks on, they fucking thing. Roy Kent. Roy Kent, great writer.
And the guy, and you know what? I can actually loop that around. Watch this. This is one of the games I like to play. Is like Degrees of Separation from Enterprise. I can loop this around to Enterprise.
Oh.
Anthony Head, who plays the ex-husband who used to own the football team on Ted Lasso,
right,
was Giles in Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the TV series.
Okay.
Dominic Keating was in one episode, and Giles is the one that killed him. So we just looped Ted Lasso around to Enterprise.
Oh, okay. That's a magical connection.
I just like playing those kind of connections, but I love Anthony Head. I think he's a great actor. He was also in a really good episode of Doctor Who.
I worked with an English actor named Leon Head, which it's such a strange word.
It is.
Name. I wonder if it's any relation to Anthony. I worked with him at New Jersey Shakespeare Festival generations ago. Leon Head. In fact, I took part of his costume home with me. I think it was we played. It was Terra Nova. It's a play that takes place in Antarctica. It's about the discovery of the South Pole. Yeah, the South Pole. And I think I stole his gloves. He had wonderful fingerless gloves that he wore. I think I took them with me.
Something that Travis said in the chat about Klingons becoming human. It was their own damn fault because they tried to use the human augment stuff, whatever that was, to augment the Klingons. So it's their own damn fault that they lost their ridges. So it's not an insult because it's their own fault.
When did they lose their ridges?
When the Klingons lost their ridges when they tried to make augments, and that's, like I said, that's how they explained why the Klingons in TOS looked more human than they unveiled the Klingon look that we're all familiar with.
Enterprise precedes
right by 100 years.
TOS, that's right.
Right, yeah. So the Klingon look that we're really familiar with, I think, made its first appearance in Star Trek: The Motion Picture, in that opening scene where they got nailed by V'ger.
I think you're right, but it really came into being with
and then Worf.
Lloyd was one of the first. He wore the costume and the ridges and the hair. Wasn't that in the second one? Was he in the second movie?
Who? Christopher Lloyd? He was in the third movie, Search for Spock. Yeah.
I don't know.
The second movie was Khan, and then the third movie was Search for Spock, and that was the one with Christopher Lloyd. Yeah, that was when it really became the thing. You're right. Was in Search for Spock. But ever since they did what they did in the movie, people have been wondering, well, how they go from looking the way they looked in the original series to how they looked in the movie, and it took until Enterprise for somebody to put together how to answer that question.
Didn't Worf always say, I'd tell you, but I'd have to kill you?
There was the Trials and Tribulations.
Oh, I hate the Tribbles.
Well, you're a Klingon, so of course. But the DS9 episode, Trial and Tribulations, is where they asked the question because they were doing that whole back in the past, and Worf did say, he said, we don't talk about it.
Right.
We don't talk about it.
I don't lie. I'm glad I wasn't. I hate it. I think tribbles are the stupidest addition to a sci-fi script. I mean, God, I have no time for that. Connor and Dominic were added brilliant comedy to the show, and beyond other things. But the Tribbles are supposed to be this huge comic thing, and I just can't stand them. Wow, stupid! I'm sorry, all you Tribble lovers, go bite me.
It's actually spoken like a true Klingon because
yeah, I know.
They don't like Klingons, which I always thought was funny.
It should be.
But that episode on DS9 where they were Dr. Bashir was surmising, was it a mutation, was it a virus, and just that line brought about that whole Enterprise episode where it was a mutation and a virus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, Travis is offering to tribble you.
I have 2 tribbles. I could send them to you, Chancellor. Did you hear me say "bite me"? Travis, who was that?
That was Travis.
Travis. Yeah, thank you, but no, thank you. What was the episode with? Oh, that was in Voyager. That's right. Never mind.
You've done Voyagers too. That's right. You've been in.
Yeah, I don't care what Vaughn says. I don't care what Jeffrey Combs says. I don't care what any of these losers say. They profess to be on the most roles in Star Trek. Well, they weren't. They aren't. It was me. And obviously that means a lot to me. Maybe nothing to anybody else, but to me.
But you just did one episode of Lower Decks. Are they gonna have you come back to play the game some more? 3. So we've got 2 more to look forward to.
Well, what did you watch?
So you were in, I think it was the 2nd episode so far as the game master.
No, that was season 3.
Yep.
Episode 2. You're right.
Yes.
Right. No, but I was also in episode 1 and 2. Season 1 and 2.
Oh.
You didn't know that, huh?
How did I miss that? Oh my gosh.
Not as Martok. I was there as the Drukmani captain.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. I'm thinking Martok, but this was the first Martok. This was the first time they brought Martok back.
Yeah, I don't think. I mean, how many games? Unless they decide to go to the game show every time they need to do something bizarre, there's no way they'll have that game show. But that's the Drukmani captain.
Oh, right.
This is made by Sharon Gates. These guys. She made Martok for a long time, and then the Drukmani captain appeared.
Oh,
I just love it.
Yep, and you were the Herodian, and see, we don't talk about Voyager much because I don't like Voyager, but yep, you were the Herodian and Voyager.
Voyager's like, as I said before, somewhere it got me in trouble before, and it's going to get me in trouble again. It's like I did an episode of Voyager, and as the Herodian. This is from.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, that's the. What I like about it is the artist who did it. Based this beautiful drawing and representation of Martok. I think it's fabulous.
It is absolutely fabulous.
What was I going to say? Something. Gets me in trouble all the time. But I've forgotten what it is, so maybe I won't get in trouble this time. Good.
No, Voyager never resonated with me. I thought I liked the individual characters, but the stories just didn't really do much for me.
We loved is Picardo in Voyager?
Oh, love Bob.
Yeah, but he's in Voyager, isn't he?
Yeah, he's the emergency medical hologram.
Yeah, no, and his from China Beach,
mm-hmm.
TV show, and he's done. if you look back in television annals, Bob's all over the place.
He is.
And he's a wonderful performer. I just adore.
He did when I was still just doing audio. He was kind enough to come on and do the show.
Nice.
Back it was during the pandemic. It was April of 2020.
Oh, wow.
And he and Connor did this wonderful little short film that they did over in Germany. And I ended up becoming very good friends with the girl that put it all together. And she was kind enough to get both Connor and Bob to agree to do the show to help promote
the film.
The film.
Yeah.
Ben Frankley. I'll send you the link because it was absolutely adorable. It was it was about the film industry. So I think you'll really enjoy it because it's really cute.
Ben Frankley.
It's called Ben Frankley. I'll send you the YouTube link. It's great.
Yeah, I never heard of it. Nobody said anything about it. So I've not heard of it. That's good.
Yeah, I think Connor's friend wrote the script, and they did it once just as a performance piece at a convention, and somehow Tony had heard about it, and so they got it made into an actual little short film. They went to Germany and they had it made. It was great. Oh, Travis has a question. Let's see what we got. Why does it say General Martok instead of Chancellor Martok? Oh.
It's like politicians, politicians.
You'd rather be a general.
I'd rather, yes, general connotes at least effectiveness in some area as opposed to politicians.
Well, the mantle of Chancellor was sort of thrust upon you because Worf,
Bob O'Reilly always tells me, I said, because I created a thing, a hat that had OLKC, the only living Klingon Chancellor. And that pissed him off. And he said, well, you were a Chancellor, what, for a week? And the show was done. I was a Chancellor for 2 years.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, though. I mean, the show's done, which means you're not getting deposed. It's the same thing with Rom. I mean, he's still the Negus, as far as we all know, right?
Right, the Meg. Yeah. Bob's my favorite line of Bob's, I think it's his too. He says, "You'll be defeated, won't you?" And he says, "Perhaps, but not today."
That was a really good Gowron. All right, so Christopher Collins, welcome to the show. He loved your performance in Voyager.
Oh, the Hirogen.
The Hirogen.
Spelled with an I, Hirogen. Just to let you know. You know what's interesting? As Martok, well, thank you. We'll let me talk about that in a second. But what's interesting is the Lola. They created a backstory for Martok that he was from the Kethel Lowlands. That was his origin on the planet Kronos. It was like a garbage dump. His family grew up worse than impoverished. It was the lowest of the low. So he grew up in a dump. And what they wrote when they wrote it, the place was called the Kentha Lowlands, Kentha. But I'm the only one who said it. And evidently I didn't say it so you could hear the N. So it came out Ketha Lowlands. And then because people started asking questions about the Ketha Lowlands, it became the Ketha Lowlands instead of the Ketha Lowlands. Anyway.
So Christopher would like to know, how long could you act in the Hirogen makeup versus Klingon makeup?
With a Hirogen makeup, and it was really hot outside. We must have been shooting either in August or in June or somewhere because it was so hot. The only part of my body that was showing was the flesh was showing were the palms of my hands. Everything else had neoprene or latex on it, or he had neoprene, skin tight neoprene really, I don't know what was it. It was like a jumpsuit, but
Right.
it was like neoprene, and even a guy, somebody fell out, passed out from the heat. I can't remember who it was, but it was very hot, and yes, it was ultimately much worse than the Klingons. Klingons could breathe, but the Herodian couldn't.
Oh, wow. So you'd rather be a Klingon?
Well, if I get to wrestle with 7 of 9, I'd rather be a Herodian. Because I don't think Martok ever met 7 of 9, but the Herodian certainly did. Oh, she's stunning, isn't she, Jerry? Wow.
Jerry, yeah, she is. She absolutely is. She hasn't aged a day. She's disgusting. All right, Christopher's got some great questions. What was different about working with Scott Bakula in Quantum Leap versus Enterprise with Nicholas Meyer?
I didn't really. What did Nicholas Quantum Leap? What Nicholas Meyer was a producer or a writer or a director for
For that episode?
For Enterprise?
I thought he was a movie. I thought he was their movie guy. Like I said, I'm terrible with the background people.
Nick Meyer is one of the originators with Harvey. Who was the other for the first Star Trek for the first series?
Harv Bennett.
Yeah, Harv Bennett.
Hey, I got one.
Way to go! And I thought Nick Meyer was also part of the original Star Trek. And I know he did worked on the movies. He probably wrote the movies or several of them. But I didn't know that he was part of Enterprise. I don't have the script to do I have a script?
Oh, do you have?
I do have. I just have a little bit of it, I think. But I didn't know that Nick Meyer was part of that. Let me see what it says.
Oh, I love that.
It's a teleplay by David Goodman. This is Enterprise Judgment with Kolos. Directed by Jim Conway. No, I don't think Nick Meyer had anything to do with it. But
well, besides,
he's one of the bigwig producers of starting the whole Star Trek thing.
Right. Well, besides punching Scott in the nose, was there any difference between working with him on the two shows?
Well, what was great about because he remembered me from being the guy who punched him in the nose, and he never held that against me, I don't think. But we would stand off stage. We got one of our punishments on Rura Penthe is we had to carry dilithium crystals, raw dilithium crystals, huge amounts of it, from the caverns of Rura Penthe out onto the tracks and put it in the ore bins. And so we'd be standing off stage holding these immensely heavy. It was mica. It was, you know what mica is? It's a glassy, light, flaky.
Oh, right. Yeah.
But huge things of it. And it's very heavy. Anyway, we're standing down the tunnel, far enough that we were off. So when you said action, we could appear around the tunnel and dump our mica dilithium crystal. Anyway, we were sitting out there, be off camera, and talking about carrying this huge mica. He was doing it too. We both had this huge armloads of mica, and I said, Scott, what did you do before acting, before theater? He said, I was an electrician. Said, really? He said, yeah, he wasn't a master electrician because he was too young, but he certainly was an apprentice electrician. But he was in the moving towards the electricians union, to be sure.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. this is an actor's life. He said, well, how about yourself? And I said, well, I poured concrete. I did curb and gutter for Glide Construction. So we were discussing our pre-acting awful jobs that we had, before we got into the business. And,
Right.
And that was a great common ground that we could have, besides getting, to punch him in the nose. Anyway, he's a great guy. And, his background's theater, and so is mine, although it's not musical theater. But so we had a lot to. Actors love to talk about acting. We love to talk about theaters we've worked at, other actors we've worked with, plays that we love, plays that we hate. That's our world. And
so you got more quality time with Bakula while you were doing Enterprise.
I did.
Okay.
I didn't have any on
Leap.
Yeah.
So Robert wants to know what your feelings are about seeing Martuk's skull as a trophy in the second season of Picard.
To be honest with you, I haven't seen it. I've heard about it, and I've met 2 people that can actually make them now. So I am going to soon be surrounded by my skulls. If you see me at a convention, hopefully I will have a skull of Martok next to me. But I heard about it. I haven't seen the episode. This is Picard, right?
Yeah, it was Picard season 2, episode 2.
Yeah, I haven't seen it. I wrote this blistering critique of Picard.
Yes, you did.
I love Patrick. He can do no wrong. But if she said with JL again one more time, I would have leaped into an airplane, flown to Los Angeles, and punched her. Because I just said, Jean-Luc, to say Jean-Luc is a beautiful thing to say.
It is beautiful.
JL is like, what? Are we talking about, Dallas? What are we doing? Anyway, there were certain things about the show that the writing that I was not very pleased with. Although now, was Endor? What's the Elnor?
Elnor, yeah.
He's on Picard, right?
Yes, he's the Romulan.
I love that. No, not.
Yeah, Elnor's. Yeah, he's a Romulan.
He looks like he dresses in a Kafka.
Yes,
caftan.
He's part of a Romulan sect. There are these women that have this very particular. I don't even know how to describe it. You guys can help me out on this. But he was raised by they're not nuns, but yeah.
That's right. And he was I don't know if he's actually a brilliant fighter, but the way he's portrayed, and he does a great job doing it, is
the choreography is beautiful. Those fight choreography is beautiful.
And he doesn't everything he says on the show seems supported by truth to me, and he was one of my favorite characters.
Yeah, no, he is. He's great. Let's see. Christopher also wanted to let you know that he did see you on Quantum Leap, but it was years after Deep Space Nine and Enterprise, and he thought it was interesting that you played a retired boxer on Quantum Leap.
A retired boxer with a bad depth perception who hit the star of Quantum Leap in the nose with his punch.
Christopher also says, did you ever do any auditions for TNG? How was it playing a Vulcan captain in DS9 Emissary?
I don't think I ever. I must have auditioned for. No, maybe I didn't. I don't think I ever auditioned for anything on TNG. What was interesting was Patrick, he probably had 20, 25 years with the Royal Shakespeare Company in England. And he had at one point decided to open a workshop, open a class, and start a company in LA. So he could share what he learned with the Royal Shakespeare Company, Royal Shakespeare Company, the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art. God, was it the National Shakespeare or was it RADA? I can't remember now. Anyway, excuse me. He wanted to do a company. And so because of Jennifer Hetrick, who's a distant relative of mine, because she got us together, and I went all over Hollywood with him looking for a proper place to have a class where he could teach and start his workshop and start his company. And we ended up doing it on the lot. And why he didn't want to do that in the beginning, I don't know. But in Studio H, which is the main recording studio for the big musicals at Paramount, he ended up doing it there. So we meet Saturdays for a couple. It only lasted a year or a year and a half, but Saturdays from like 9 o'clock to 4 o'clock. You know, it was a long day. He would give up his Saturdays and there was like 15 people and that were involved, and I was lucky enough to be one of them. And if he couldn't be there to teach, he would get a friend of his to come in. And one of those friends, one of those Saturdays was Sir Ben Kingsley.
Oh my God!
And taught ran the workshop. And it's funny. He said he wanted to go to Chinatown, and I got invited to go with a couple other people to Chinatown to get some traditional Chinese dinner after the workshop. We got in a cab, all of us, and maybe somebody was driving, but I think it was a cab. And this is before Uber and before Lyft. And he was complaining about Kenneth Branagh, because Kenneth Branagh had just burst upon the scene at age 24, whatever he was. He was a young man, but his Shakespeare on TV was brilliant. The movies that he had done were brilliant, and he was God's gift to Shakespeare. Of course, this didn't sit too well with Ben Kingsley and Patrick Stewart, who were in their 50s at that point. And I remember he wrote his autobiography when he was like 25.
Oh my God!
Branagh, and I remember I remember Sir Ben saying, Kenneth Branagh, he's a perfect Thatcher actor. You know, he's 24. What does he know about life, let alone teaching? And he's got his autobiography. It was very funny to hear that, and it's actually absolutely true story. You know, I can't prove it, but.
All right, Christopher wants to know also, he's great with the questions. I love it. Did you ever give input or suggest ideas to the writers of Star Trek for any of the characters that you portrayed?
The only thing I don't think I mean, I pitched ideas for episodes, some episodes, but they never bought any of those ideas. There were too many that involved time travel, because they always say, "No, we hate time travel. We can't do time travel show." And then every other show is a time
travel show. Travis actually just said that he started reading Shakespeare because of Sir Pat Stew.
And well done, sir, because Patrick, I remember he used to say, when you're doing it right, when you're doing Shakespeare right in the moment, the audience is literally breathing with you, because you would say there's a mountain of laws. When I teach it, you teach two things: truth and grace. The truth part of Shakespeare is about the drama that you basically, Stanislavski is, why am I talking? Who am I talking to? What's my biography? What's standing? That kind of stuff. The grace is when you're dealing with the scansion. What kind of figures of speech are there? What's the meter? Is it iambic pentameter, or what is it? Is it an Alexandrine? Is it rhyming couplets? What is it? You have to be wary of that, aware of it, I should say, to be, when you have just the truth, it's sort of flat. Who cares? If you have just the grace, it's like a song, a sing-song thing without any body to it. You have to do it both. You have to bring both to it. I forget what the question was.
There wasn't a question. He was just talking about how Patrick Stewart inspired him to read Shakespeare.
Well, Patrick, I mean, I used to do, we are amazed, and thus long have we stood to see the fearful bending of thy knee, because we thought ourselves thy lawful king. And if we be, how dare thy joints forget to pay our lawful duty to our presence? If we be not, shows the hand of God that hath dismissed us from our stewardship. For well we know no hand of blood and bone can grip the sacred handle of our scepter unless he do profane, steal, or usurp. And all the stuff that we saw with the death of Queen Elizabeth, all the ceremony and the uniforms and the incantations and the music and the, it all bespoke, it all goes to the Elizabethan era. And that sort of fits, isn't it? Elizabeth I.
Yes.
Created the ceremony for the death of Elizabeth II. Anyway,
I've never performed Shakespeare, but I have recited I've recited the 29th sonnet for a class that I had once in Shakespeare.
What is that?
When in disgrace with fortune in men's eyes.
Love it.
Yeah, actually the best, and I actually told this to Ron Perlman, because I used to love him in Beauty and the Beast, the TV show, and the spoken word album had come out when I was taking the class, and that was one of the poems he had read on the album, and I'd listened to it ad nauseum. So when the class said you have to memorize a sonnet, I'd already memorized that one because I had listened to Ron do it.
Right.
So, and I actually had a chance to finally tell him that he helped me pass my Shakespeare class.
I don't know anything about, where was that? Where was the Shakespeare class?
Penn State University. I was took a semester off from main campus, so I was down home in it was in Delaware County, Pennsylvania, just outside of Philly.
At home.
Because I was commuting. I lived in South Jersey, and I actually live within commuting distance of 2 Penn State branch campuses.
Oh, that was a branch campus. I was going to say Happy Valley's all the way across the state there.
Yeah, Happy Valley. Happy Valley. I lived in. We've had this discussion. I lived in Happy Valley for a while, but there was a year that I took off from going to school in Happy Valley, and I was commuting.
Gotcha. Yeah. I beweep my outcast state.
Yes, and trouble deaf heaven with my bootless cries, and look upon myself and curse my fate, wishing me more. Yeah, that's the one.
It sounds good. It sounds good in your voice. That's good.
Oh, thank you. Yeah. Actually, what's really funny is when during COVID, when Sir Pat was doing what was it, like a sonnet a day or a sonnet a week or whatever.
He did that, yeah.
And he did the 29th sonnet, and then Ron Perlman, in answer to that, did his own video, and he said in the voice of Vincent, and he went from the Ron Perlman voice into that melodic Vincent of the Tunnels voice that he had back when he was doing the show. And I'm sorry, I love Pat, but I love listening to Ron Perlman when he does those.
I don't remember what is Vincent in the Tunnels.
Vincent, Beauty and the Beast, the 80s television show Beauty and the Beast. He was Vincent. He was the lion-faced.
Right.
And then Linda Hamilton played his Catherine as the star-crossed.
Right, I remember him. I watched the show. I didn't.
Yep, and then Jeff Combs did an episode. Armin Shimmerman had a recurring character. I mean, there's Star Trek in that as well.
Yeah, Armin, he's been around a lot. He's done every show that Hollywood produced, I think.
Oh, Armin's fantastic. I'd love to meet him I just never meet him because he's always in Vegas for the Rat Pack. If he comes to Vegas at all, it's usually just for the Rat Pack. And I think I don't even think he did the Rat Pack this year. I think he just was in and out for a day.
Yeah, I think he was too.
Chris has more questions. Chris wants to know, how difficult was it to sing Klingon songs in Star Trek? And how long did it take to memorize them?
Well, the only one I ever memorized was the Warriors Anthem. And that was memorized for that was memorized for a CD-ROM called Klingon, which is the first thing. It's the first thing I did as a Klingon. Jonathan Frakes directed it. It was a CD-ROM, and the funny thing about that was I auditioned for it, and I didn't know anything about Klingons, and I didn't know anything about. And I auditioned with a piece of script, and it had a big section where I spoke Klingon, and I said, "Oh, Christ, I don't know how to say these words. I don't know what they mean. It'll look foolish." So I said, "What can I do? I'll speak in a foreign language at that point." That seems to make sense. Now, what French? Nah, it sounds like French. And German, people recognize. I'll speak in Latin because I had memorized Cicero's fourth oration against Catiline I took Latin up until I was a senior in college. My mother was a Latin teacher, so I was stuck in that thing. Anyway, so I did. I said, Worf, this is not what I mean. Well, this is not what I mean, Worf. What cosque tandem abotere, Catalintia, patientia nostro command fidem nos eludet. In sonatus haec intelligit, immovero in sonatus. Because I already knew it. And so it didn't matter what I was saying. Just find the right emotion in back of it. It'll be fine. Anyway, Jonathan was laughing at the end of it, Jonathan Frakes. And he said, I can honestly say no one has ever auditioned with Latin for me before. And he said, he said, and I love Latin.
Oh my gosh.
So he said, there's nothing written for you in this script, but I'm going to ask the writers to write something for you. And that was my first introduction to playing a Klingon in Star Trek.
Wow. Speaking of Jonathan, this kind of works towards that. Christopher also wants to know, did you have a favorite director to work with? And he liked how LeVar directed you with great moments in Soldiers of the Empire.
Yeah, I got to say LeVar Burton was the pièce de résistance of directors for me in Star Trek. First of all, because he's a brilliant actor, and he knows what actors do. And second of all, he had a wonderful eye as a director. And third, he understood this, not the venue, he understood the world of Star Trek as good or better than anybody. And I remember he said to me, he said we were going to do the Shatner. We're going to make this a Shatner shot. He said, yeah. So it's sitting in the captain's chair, and he puts the camera way down there to sort of make the person sitting up here look like a god, because it's so awesome, awe-inspired, the view.
Right.
And he said, John, you get more emotion out of one eye. I don't know how you do it, but it's really remarkable. I said, what the hell are you talking about? You don't have any eyes, and you had an incredible amount of emotion. He said, well, good point.
Oh, that is so funny. Okay, I wanna guess. I want to guess on this one, but he wants to know which people made the most bloopers on set doing the techno babble. And I know Connor admits that he sucked at techno babble, but do you have any memories of people that really screwed up the techno babble?
No, I didn't. Klingons don't have techno. They barely have tech. I mean, we fight,
Right.
we go against disruptors and whatnot with big, sword-like things.
Right.
No, but the funniest thing was when I was doing Laws in Chimera,
Mm-hmm.
I had to go into Quarks, where the entire company was. All the regulars were there, and I had to walk in, and basically my job was to offend everybody in the room, which I did with great zeal. But Nana had a line where she had to say like the word Varelon. Verilon, I can't remember the name of this race of people, and she would say, "Well, it's important that the important that the Verilonian cut. It's important that the Verilonian cut." And she's just getting funnier and funnier. It's important. Cut. Yeah. She couldn't say this word, and it was like a half an hour of her trying to get out a simple word. It's just that she couldn't get there. And once you go up that many times and you're laughing at it,
yeah, it's just a laugh loop. You can't get out of it.
Yeah. Anyway.
Okay, so are there any more fun Enterprise stories before we wrap everything up? Any behind the scenes stuff? Any things you can think of that has anything to do with Enterprise that I haven't asked or hasn't been asked?
Enterprise.
The
thing that I was most ecstatic about was the fact that the opposing Klingon lawyer is an actor named John Vickery. John Vickery, I had seen do Prince Hal in Shakespeare in the Park at what's it called? Not Deloitte. What's the name of the stage in Central Park, where Shakespeare in the Park happened?
Oh yeah, I know. I don't know what it's called, but okay.
By the Public Theater. Anyway, right. So many. I had auditioned for that show. John Vickery played the lead, but also John Goodman was in it, and I had auditioned for the part that he did. We were about the same size back then before he gained a lot of weight. And also Che, who's the actor who played Che on Evita?
Got me on that one.
Oh no, Mandy Patinkin.
Oh my God! Okay, love Mandy Patinkin.
Yeah, Mandy was in the show, and John Vickery was the lead. He was Prince Hal, and I saw him and I said, "God damn, that guy is he's good. He's good. He's the best, at least the American actor I've ever seen do Shakespeare."
And you got to work with him on Enterprise.
And then on Enterprise, he showed up as the opposing lawyer. So for me, it was like, oh, fantastic. I'll be able to go head to head with him. I'll be able to go face to face and go with it. And he did an incredible job. But I felt like it made me feel wonderful to be in the same stage with what really was a hero of mine doing the
right.
playwright of all time.
Right. Okay, we're going to squeeze. Christopher came up with one more question, so we're going to squeeze this in, and then we're going to let you go. What's different about playing a Klingon on set versus being in makeup and fighting with a batleth at a convention?
Well, when Bob and I were in Paris, Bob O'Reilly, Gowron, having a batleth fight, we were fighting with loaves of French bread.
Because no stunt coordinators, that's a big difference.
And we were singing French opera as we eventually killed each other. And on our diet, we fell on each other. So I think I was lying down first, still just getting back up to say, one more note. Then he fell on me, sang his dying aria, and we completed our great death scene in the Paris Opera. That was different. But to answer your question seriously, well, I can't. So you're going to have to take that with you to Valhalla.
Well, thank you so much for joining. I mean, we were talking about how it's past your bedtime just when you joined us, and now we're already at an hour and a half. So, JG, thank you so much for spending Enterprise's anniversary with me. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you for your questions. This has been amazing. Make sure to tune in next week to find out I don't know what the show is going to be about. So stay tuned to me on all the socials, and I will fill you in on that. And and as always, I will see you next week. And please make sure that you live long and prosper.
Hey, this is Connor Turner. You've been listening to the NX7062 podcast with Stephanie. Enjoy your evening.